Barcelona, one of Europe's top tourist destinations, shuddered under coordinated terrorist attacks when a van drove down Barcelona's iconic Las Ramblas promenade, killing at least 13 people, while outside the city police shot dead 5 men in a car who ran over a pedestrian several hours later. On Friday, the whole Las Ramblas neighborhood was eerily quiet as heavily armed police patrolled and vendors forced to evacuate the night before came to close up their flower shops and tourist kiosks. Tourists and onlookers slowly filled the long boulevard, turning what is ordinarily a vacation hotspot into a sight of mourning. Some laid out candles to commemorate the victims. At noon, Spanish King Felipe VI led a minute of silence in Barcelona, as the city grieved for its fallen. Thursday's afternoon's shocking attack by a white delivery van represents the latest use of a vehicle in a terrorist attack against civilians, mimicking incidents in Berlin, London, Stockholm and the French city of Nice over the past year. The attack was claimed by the extremist Islamic State group. The Las Ramblas carnage and the killing by police of 5 suspects in the nearby seaside resort of Cambrils as they tried to mow down pedestrians in the early hours of the morning are connected, the Catalan region's top security official, Interior Minister Joaquim Forn, told local radio on Friday, though he gave no details. In a sign of the evolving investigation, Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy led an emergency meeting of security officials in Barcelona. The meeting included a review of all leads in the manhunt for the driver and analyzed the latest details on the attacks in Barcelona and Cambrils. The initial attack broke the peace of a warm summer afternoon in a packed, tourist-friendly area of Barcelona at the peak of vacation season, and the victims came from well beyond the city's borders. More than 100 people from at least 24 nationalities were hurt and the death toll could rise, Forn said. The wide-reaching impact was a measure of the international draw of the cosmopolitan Las Ramblas area, which has long stood at the heart of the city. France's foreign ministry said 26 of its citizens were among the injured, including 11 seriously. Josep Luis Trapero, a senior Catalan police official, told reporters that 2 men were arrested in connection with the attack, a Moroccan national and a Spanish citizen from the enclave of Melilla. The driver is still thought to be at large, he said. Police were searching for the younger brother of the Moroccan they already have in custody. The older brother's identification card was found in the van, but he turned himself in and told police that he believed his sibling may have stolen the document to rent the vehicle, 2 Spanish security officials said, speaking on condition of anonymity to describe the ongoing investigation. A 3rd suspect was arrested Friday in the northern Catalan town of Ripoll. It was around 1 a.m. on Friday that police responded to an attack near the boardwalk of the beach town of Cambrils, 60 miles southwest of Barcelona, where an Audi had plowed into a crowd. The police exchanged fire with the men in the car, killing 4 immediately while a 5th later died of his injuries. One of the 7 victims injured in the attack also later died Friday, Catalan security officials said, adding that one of the injured was a police officer. Amateur video aired by Spain's state TV broadcaster showed several police cars speeding along what appeared to be a seafront boulevard as people screamed, followed by a brief volley of about 10 bullets. A second video showed 3 bodies on the ground in front of the town's yacht club. Authorities carried out controlled detonations of what they thought were explosive belts worn by the men, but turned out to be well-made fakes. Spain had been spared a large-scale terrorist attack since the 2004 bombing of the Madrid rail system that killed 192 people and injured about 2,000, but authorities had long braced for another hit. The attack Thursday brought to Spain the same sort of vehicular carnage that has visited Britain, France, Germany and Sweden since 2016, and highlighted the difficulty of defending dense city centers from violence that requires no explosives or training. Terrorists will never defeat a united people who love freedom in the face of barbarism, Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy wrote via Twitter as he rushed to Barcelona. The Islamic State Islamic news agency said that the people who executed the Barcelona attack are soldiers from the Islamic State and they did this operation as a response to calls to target coalition states. Spain is a member of a broad US-led coalition battling the Islamic State. It was not immediately clear how closely the Islamic State had worked with the attackers. The group has previously claimed responsibility for attacks inspired by its rhetoric but not directly planned by Islamic State leaders. Police later said they were looking into a potential link between the van attack and a pair of explosions that destroyed a house in Alcanar, about 100 miles southeast of Barcelona, earlier in the day. One person was killed there and 16 were injured, including police officers and firefighters who were investigating the initial blast. The blast at the house, which apparently contained propane canisters, was initially reported to be a gas explosion. At least one of the 3 men in detention was involved in the explosion, one of the Spanish security officials said, and counterterrorism authorities were proceeding on the assumption that the propane canisters were intended for use as part of an attack and exploded prematurely. The Las Ramblas attack, which took place over a few terror-filled minutes just before 5 p.m. local time, set off a wave of panic and confusion as authorities sought to track down the perpetrators, and fearful people hid for hours in barricaded shops, restaurants and churches. Witnesses described chaos as the white delivery van suddenly swung off a street and onto the wide pedestrian mall that draws tourists and residents to its bars, cafes and shops. As people started to run, the driver swerved the vehicle from side to side, in an apparent effort to inflict more damage. When the van came to a halt, its front was smashed and crumpled inward from the bodies it had hit. People were sprawled on the sidewalk, some not moving. Hats, handbags and other items were strewn about. All of a sudden, everyone started running, so we ran, too, Andrew Roby, 35. Who was visiting from Washington, said in a phone interview. Roby said he saw several people, apparently wounded, lying in front of and beside the van. We saw people on the ground, he said. I heard a bunch of people screaming. Some locals expressed frustration at authorities' failure to place barricades at the entrances to the boulevard in a new era of vehicular terrorism. Las Ramblas is one of the city's top tourist areas, with a wide pedestrian promenade flanked by roadways. One British tourist said she hid beneath the counters of a phone shop with 20 other people for half an hour. We heard gunshots, and people were running and screaming, said Mandy Wood, 54. By the grace of God, we could have been here 2 minutes earlier, she said. We would have been on the street where it happened. Another witness said police suddenly told the crowd to run. There was a really loud kind of crashing noise. I didn't stop to look back, Ethan Speeby, a witness caught up in the commotion, told the BBC. Hours after the attack, he said he was holed up in a church with about 80 tourists and locals. They have locked the doors, and I think the police are outside. We're just waiting in here right now to hear more news. It's quite scary to be caught up in it, he said. More than 4 hours after the attack, police started evacuating those who were hiding in nearby buildings. After the attack, Spanish authorities shared the names of at least 2 people with European and Arab intelligence agencies, but the suspects did not appear to have been flagged for connections to extremism, according to an Arab and a European intelligence official, neither of whom was authorized to speak on the record. Authorities appear to think that a small group of 2 or 3 people planned the attack, the Arab intelligence official said. Islamic State supporters celebrated the Barcelona attack Thursday and promoted previous threats made against Spain, according to the site intelligence group, which monitors extremist activity. The Islamic State, also known as ISIS, has called on supporters to carry out attacks using vehicles. The group has claimed responsibility for car attacks in Europe, as well as at Ohio State University last year.